recognized symbol of excellence for your entertainment.
I blame society. Society made me what I am.
Welcome to Machino Music, the show that puts some music in Machino music, with your host, me, Brett Strong. Today on Machino Music, it's my favorite punk and new wave movies. Roll the picture. Good afternoon, everybody. My favorite punk and new wave movies. That's what we're doing here today. Talk a lot about punk and new wave music. It's one of the popular genres we talk about here on this program. Now, I should say at the top, these are not necessarily movies that have or feature punk / new wave music. Some of these just kind of have a vibe to them. They're mostly from, like the late 70s, early 80s. Well, there's a few from a bit later that I'll explain. And again, these are the ones that I picked. These are my favorites. If you don't hear any of yours, you can't believe I didn't put SLC Punk or a movie like that. Or the CBGB movie, which is actually complete garbage. Let me just say right off the top. That CBGB movie with Alan Rickman and like the bands and it's terrible. Some kind of cool casting in it. Like, it's sort of interesting. It's sort of fun. Like, I kind of get what they're trying to do, but that's a bad movie. Just getting on a rant about this right now because, oh, come on. They don't even get actual Ramones songs. That's a crime. I mean, I don't care what kind of budget you have. If you're making a movie about the history of CBGB Club and it features the Ramones, who are like the biggest band that came out of there, shell out the cash to get at least Blitzkrieg Bop. Ridiculous, terrible movie. They use Joey Ramone's solo songs. No, you can't do that. Okay, anyway, that's my rant. That's not on the list, but just saying, this is more kind of a vibe, and if you don't hear your favorite movie, that's okay. These are my favorites. So let's get into it here. I'm going chronologically. So let's start 1978. Cheech and Chong, Up in Smoke. Big Cheech and Chong fan. I'm not a stoner, by the way. I act like this all the time. I think it would just make me normal. But still, I love, and just as a big comedy fan, I love Cheech and Chong. They were so groundbreaking. The first, real kind of rock and roll comedians. They were like a band. They were so great. And they were a band at the end of this movie. Classic singing Earache My Eye as Alice Bowie, a knock on Alice Cooper and David Bowie. Really funny. Yeah. A lot of punk bands featured in this. The infamous rock fight, not Battle of the Bands, a rock fight at the Roxy Club. The bands that play in this, I have it written down here, the Dills, the Whores, and the Berlin Brats, who are credited as the Mau Maus. Actually, the Germs were originally supposed to be in the movie, but apparently, as legend has it, they were too messed up. They were too wasted to perform. Probably Darby Crash, mostly. That guy was a disaster. Look up the history of the Germs and Darby Crash. Tragic, but, it'll make a lot of sense if you read the story. But yeah, great picture, great movie. All-time classic. What's great about the Cheech and Chong movies too, like if you watch them straight, you watch them without being chemically impaired, you realize how great these movies are, like how well they're made. It's like Robert Altman movies. They're like art movies. They're just like, the cinematography is insane. Great. All right, next. Gotta have Rock and Roll High School. I've talked about this before to show about music movies. But you got to talk about Rock and Roll High School. 1979 was almost disco high. If Roger Corman had his way, he wanted to do it. We have to do a disco movie. And yeah, it was going to be. And they said no. And then Alan Arkush comes in as the director, and he's like, okay, let's make a rock and roll. Got to get a band. There's so many different bands. Van Halen was considered. Todd Rundgren was almost the band. Devo actually was considered at one point, but they had too much of their own thing going. Cheap Trick settled on the Ramones, and they're kind of the perfect band for this because they're cartoon characters. And this kind of, I think, if this got me into the Ramones, I think it's got a lot of people in the Ramones if you didn't really know much about them beforehand. This is kind of one of those classic examples of a movie where like there's a band or a style of music and all of a sudden that's everybody's favorite band, even though they probably wouldn't be into that band. But because they're in town and everybody's talking about it, or there's a couple people talking about it, Riff Randall's a great charismatic person. She's the mouthpiece for this great band. Hey, we're all into this now. It's trend chasing, kind of, but that's kind of what makes it fun. It kind of adds to its charm. One thing I will say about this movie, there's some really boring parts in it. Like, I don't really like the side characters, and I don't really like the sort of the love story that felt like kind of shoehorned into it. But the performance stuff, the Ramones stuff, just a really silly comedy. And of course, the Riff Randall character is a lot of fun. Clint Howard is a lot of fun. One of the first great Clint Howard roles. Yeah. Dig it. Really fun movie. And thankfully, we didn't get Disco High. That needs to be its own thing. We got Skate Town USA eventually. Didn't need it with Rock and Roll High School. Alright, this is a weird one. This is completely forgot about. Prey TV, 1980. Dabney Coleman stars as he's a television evangelist who buys this rundown TV station and turns it into religious programming. It's a spoof of television. But what this is, and why this is included, and what this is most kind of remembered for, is Devo makes an appearance in here playing their Band of Love, Dove, which is a spoof of religious groups. And they're not even performing Praying Hands, which is sort of the signature song that they played as Dove. They're playing Shrivel Up, which is really funny.
Shrivel up. Praise God.
Really forgotten movie. It's fun for what it is. Doesn't hold up particularly well. There's some really dated jokes in here. And the movie would probably be canceled today because it's like kind of blasphemous. I mean, the religious people would hate it. And also, there's a few jokes even, the woke mob would come after you for. But it's a fun movie. Check it out if you want just like these sort of bizarro, forgotten movies. And you get to see Devo. It's only 86 minutes, so it's not asking for a ton of your time. Thought I'd include this one. 1982, Cat People, remake of the 1942 Universal classic Cat People. This is Paul Schrader, starring Nastasha Kinski. Oh, so gorgeous. And got Malcolm McDowell in here. John Hurd, the late great John Peter McAllister Hurd. Ned O'Toole. But what's cool about this movie, it's like the whole vibe of it, the soundtrack, the whole mood, it's got a very kind of new wave kind of feel to it. Kind of a punk rock kind of feel. That's what I kind of dug about this. And David Bowie does the theme song. So great. One of my favorite David Bowie songs. It's so dark, so ominous. Giorgio Moroder does the score. Great picture. Very atmospheric, very sexy. It's not the 1940s anymore. This is the 80s, and this is a movie I saw on late night TV, and it changed me. But great movie. This is a good special edition. Got some cool features and stuff on it. All right, next up, this is like the one, when you talk about new wave movies, punk new wave movies. Valley Girl, Nicolas Cage's first movie, or his first starring role. He'd been in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, sort of as a very small part, doesn't even have any lines. This is his first big movie. This is before he got too weird, got too out there, and people started thinking, well, this guy's a terrible actor. No, it's just that he says yes to everything now. And he commits to really garbage scripts. This was when he was like just doing great things. And his sort of odd approach to acting and his odd line readings, all this kind of stuff, it kind of worked. Great actor. But just, you know, the dude needs money, so he just like says yes to like just pieces of trash, garbage movies. But this one, the first real Nicolas Cage classic, so fun. Got tons of great punk and new wave music on it. Like Nicolas Cage character was supposed to be a punk, although the music in here is far more new wave. Josie Cotton, the Plimsolls. Yeah, got a lot of these. Modern English, of course, had that big, huge new wave track. One of the defining tracks of the 80s. I Melt With You. I'll stop the world and melt with you. Great movie. Great aesthetic, as the kids like to say. Dig it. Alright, next up from 1983, the year I was born, Dr. Detroit. This was Dan Aykroyd's pretty well his only like solo starring vehicle. He was usually mostly part of an ensemble. This was one of the movies I think he was originally going to try and make with John Belushi before John Belushi passed away. He only made the Blues Brothers together.
They also did Neighbors in 1981.
But this one, such a like totally forgotten movie. And it's included on here because Devo does the theme song. Great theme song, one of the great forgotten theme songs of the 80s, kind of back when sort of every movie had to have a theme song. They had to have either the end credits or the opening credits, whatever, had to have a theme song telling you about the movie, telling you about the character, and this Dr. Detroit. But yeah, really cool. Dan Aykroyd met his wife, Donna Dixon. Donna Dixon, so gorgeous. Fran Drescher is in here. I love Fran Drescher. Yeah, great. James Brown is also in this, which is really odd. You got Devo, you got James Brown. So strange, but it's a weird, out there movie. But if you can track it down, there are special edition DVDs available. There's a Blu-ray which has some special features, but doesn't have the Devo music video. That's why I haven't shelled out for the Blu-ray, because, you know, it's got the commentary track, kind of cool, but then it doesn't have, where's the Devo music video? Kind of want it all in one package. But anyway, check out Dr. Detroit if you haven't, you know, just an oddity that most people have forgotten about. I moved the stack over here so I can, you know, don't get anything mixed up. Alright, how about next from 1984, Revenge of the Nerds. The frat boy comedy that started it all. That's what it says on the back here. This is the panty raid. You could not make this movie today. I hate this. I hate this cover. I hate this. I don't like this DVD. I wish I had like the original VHS with the thing with the nerds on the pillar, the original the thing. So much better. I hate this cover, but I had to include this movie because, I mean, this is like new wave, like personified, really. Because, you know, the music of Nerds was new wave. It's all about computers. And it's got the scene, we just talked about Devo with Dr. Detroit. It's got the scene where they're impersonating Devo. The famous talent show scene. What do the nerds do? They do a musical performance, and it's like Devo. The other thing that's cool about this, and I actually thought for years that the theme song was done by Devo, it was actually done by the Rubinoos. Great new wave theme song for this movie. I hate this. I hate showing this. I hate this. I hate this cover. Terrible. Let's move on. All right, talk about the quintessential punk movie, Repo Man. Yeah, this is a great movie. Actually, I don't like this cover art either. This is a Criterion collection. They do a lot of these kind of interpretive, kind of like, hey, let's try to do something artsy. No, just give us the original with the Emilio Estevez standing on the street and it says it's 3 a.m. Do you know where your car is? So great. One of the great taglines. Not even be found on here. But this is a great movie. Alex Cox, a madman director. It was executive produced by Michael Nesmith, the great Mike Nesmith of the Monkees and music video pioneer. Really cool. Iggy Pop does the theme song. Awesome. Got so many punk songs, so many punk bands are featured on. I mean, the Circle Jerks, Black Flag, which I think has only done Emilio Estevez Sings TV Party, but they credit the song like it's actually in the thing, but I think it's just Emilio Estevez's character singing it. Harry Dean Stanton. Don't sleep on Harry Dean Stanton. One of the great sort of punk rock actors, you could call him. I mean, the dude had sex with Debbie Harry. That happened, everybody. Now let's think about how awesome or even how kind of horrifying that is. I mean, gorgeous Debbie Harry and skeletal looking Harry Dean Stanton. But, apparently that happened. It is cool. Yes. So yeah, he's definitely, he's a punk rock legend because of that. Yeah. Really cool movie. Really weird, really out there. Involves a car that has maybe has alien powers to it. I don't want to give it away if you've never seen it. It's so great. Yeah. Dig it, Repo Man. Alright, 1985. Kind of the end of New Wave, but I'm including this movie just because it's still got that kind of feel. Desperately Seeking Susan. I did my Madonna movie ranking. This was my number one. This, I think, is the greatest Madonna movie. And really, this was when Madonna, you could argue Madonna was new wave. At least the first couple albums, it was new wave. And she was punk. When she first started, she was punk. She was in a punk band called The Breakfast Club. So she's got her punk cred. And definitely what she was doing, how she was dressing at times, so new wave. So you got to include this one. And this is just, what a fun movie. Roseanne Arquette's character wants to be Madonna, essentially. I mean, it's Susan, but it's Madonna. And who didn't want to be Madonna? That was a big spit I just did right there. So good. Love this movie. Directed by Susan Seidelman, who also directed another movie that I don't have a copy of, but it's going to be an honorable mention. I'll talk about it, I guess, when I get to it. But, yeah. Really cool movie. Love Desperately Seeking Susan. Alright, thought I'd include this one. I mean, this guy, we recently lost him. Paul Rubens. Pee Wee Herman. Pee Wee's Big Adventure. I mean, this one is totally a vibe. I mean, you kind of look back on Pee Wee Herman, there's a lot of punk, new wave sort of vibe to it. It's so different, so weird, so I think you can kind of put it in there. And that's why I'm including it. It's the feature film debut of Tim Burton. Also, Danny Elfman of the new wave band Oingo Boingo does the score. Doesn't get more new wave than that. And there's a book, actually, great book put out by TCM, Turner Classic Movies. Hollywood Pride, which is all about the history of LGBTQ plus history on film. And this was included as one of the movies. So, I think it's because it was included sort of as a punk kind of the rebel movie. Same with Desperately Seeking Susan was also included in that section of the book. So, yeah, I mean, I think you kind of include this one just for totally having a vibe. that is just so unlike any movie. There's definitely a punk rock feel to Pee-wee Herman and definitely Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This is one of those Snapcase DVDs. I kind of hate these. They're not very easy, to put on shelves. But that's my original DVD, so I'm not getting rid of that. Same with this movie. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, 1988. It was also included in that part in the Hollywood Pride book. I mean, this is just another one. Just get a character who's got like a punk new wave vibe. I mean, look at her dog, Gonk. Got a mohawk. That's a punk rock dog right there. So yeah, this one I think needs to be in there. Also includes John Paragon, who worked with Paul Rubens. I mean, it's all the same network of people, the Groundlings. Yeah, really fun movie. So I think, definitely got that vibe, so that's why I'm including that one. And this one, I mean, lastly here, this one doesn't, fall in it, but I thought included more just because of the soundtrack, Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion. Got a lot of punk new wave songs on the soundtrack. Definitely new wave stuff. I mean, you got, and also these characters, I mean, those outfits. I mean, it's kind of like 90s kind of club wear, but kind of new wave at the same time. And it shows them in the 80s dressing new wave. Really fun movie. Lisa Kudrow, Mira Sorvino, Janine Garofalo at the height of her powers.
Oh, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, what do you want?
She was so fantastic. There's supposed to be a sequel to this coming soon, just recently announced. We'll see how that turns out. Sounds like it might be okay. Be fun to see these characters back. But yeah, really funny movie. They attend their high school reunion. They were nerds, and here they go attending their high school reunion, and hilarity ensues, as the kids like to say. But yeah, this one's just such a fun movie. Lots of like new wave tunes on the soundtrack, so I'm including it because of that. And like I said, this is kind of more a vibe, not so much that it's about or necessarily like a documentary or something about punk or new wave. Like I had a few like I could have included that were more kind of documentaries, but I wanted to kind of just like actual movies that just sort of have that vibe, that punk new wave vibe. Like I said, a few honorable mentions, movies I don't have. One of the Susan Sarandon movie I was talking about is Smithereens from 1982. Really cool movie. Also, The Driller Killer from 1979. Very whacked out movie, horror movie. A guy runs around killing people with a drill. Yeah, I hosted that on Features of the Night. It's a lost episode, everybody. You'll never see it ever again. But I did it. And also, Ladies and Gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains, also from 1982. So there you go. Just a few punk new wave movies. Like again, this is sort of, we're going for a vibe here. If you didn't hear your favorite movie, if you maybe think of some more, that's cool. These are just some sort of my favorites. Include some of yours if you feel so inclined. But those are my favorites. And if you're a fan of any of these movies, you're a punk, you're a new waver, I hope you enjoyed this. That's it for this week. Until we meet again, this is Brett Strong saying good journey.